Good afternoon, and welcome to Sundays in Suwannee with Gwinnett County Public Library. My name is Amy Perry, and I'm an adult service specialist here with the library. I have the honor today of welcoming and introducing you to Mr. Mike Glen. Mike has so many amazing accomplishments. I have time just to highlight a few of those. Mike Stinger Glen is a former NBA player and was inducted into the Georgia Sports Hall of Fame in 2016. He's been an actor, author, and television sports analyst. He's received many awards for basketball, as well as for his commitment to community service. This passion for helping others can be exemplified by the success of the nation's first major summer basketball camp for deaf athletes, which Mike created in 1980. This camp now serves a diverse group of athletes nationwide. Mike is a renowned and motivational, inspirational speaker, and we are so excited to have him here today to talk about his book, My Next Shot Goes In. Please give a warm welcome to Mr. Mike Glen.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you very much for that warm welcome. I have a mic on, so I won't necessarily stand right at that microphone, but thank you so much for being here. And I'd just like to share, first of all, a little bit about my background, and then we'll talk about the NBA and my book, etc. But I can remember as a young person about the size of this young gentleman here. I was about 7 or 8 years old, and I went to a practice with my dad. My dad was a basketball coach at Georgia School for the Deaf. He coached high school girls and boys basketball. So Mom said I could go with Dad, and I was happy to go with him to that practice. My first practice, hanging out with Dad, walked onto the court, and the girls on his team, varsity girls, they started just running out on the court, and they were picking me up and kissing me on the jaw. Now, you know when you're 7 or 8, you don't appreciate those kisses like you will later on in your life. So I started to yell, "Dad, help me! These girls are attacking me out here. They're not even saying anything." So he started to laugh at first, and then he explained to me. He said, "Mike, these girls are deaf." He says, "That means they can't hear or talk to you." He said, "But they want to be your friend." He said, "Now, if you want to be their friend, you're going to need to learn some sign language." So I thought about that at 7 years old. But I decided, okay, I will learn sign language. Now, the girls on Dad's team just adopted me into their culture. They started teaching me my ABCs first. F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. And I had to do it with both hands. And they taught me some different signs like daddy and mommy and play and eat and friend. And they taught me how to play basketball. So deaf kids were my best friends in the world. And so from there, I would play with my kids that could hear and talk, and with deaf friends. I was practicing twice when everybody else was practicing once. And I became better and better at basketball and communication and understanding people that were different from me. Diversity, they may say today. And so I went to basketball camps when I was in high school, and I would ask my deaf friends, "Did you go to camp this summer?" And they say, "No, we can't go to a basketball camp. We can't communicate. We're deaf. There's no camp for deaf people." And I was really hurt that there was no basketball camp for deaf kids. And I said in high school, one day I'm going to start a camp where my deaf friends can go to. And I had that opportunity to do that as a member of the New York Knicks in 1980. They came to the PR director, Kevin Kennedy, and said, "We have a tournament out on Long Island, and all the deaf schools from the area, New York, New Jersey, Rhode Island, it's a tournament, and can one of the Knicks go? We'll have an interpreter there and just say one of the Knicks is here." He said, "I think I got just the guy for you." He knew about my background. So he came and asked me, would I go to the tournament? I said, "Of course." So I walked on the floor, and I had an interpreter with me. I said, we don't need you, thank you, but we don't need you. So I just started signing myself, and it got real quiet in the gym. They said, wow, one of the New York Knicks is deaf. See, he's signing, he's deaf. One of the New York Knicks is deaf. They were just excited, man. They wanted to just come out on the floor and communicate with me. But I told them about my background and my story, and that one day I wanted to start a camp for deaf kids. And the AD and the head coach there said, you can establish your camp right here. I said, okay, we'll do that. And so that summer in 1980, I started America's first basketball camp for deaf kids. And they were so excited. Pro player could communicate with them, take pictures with them, and a lot of pros from other teams just joined me. I called them and they say, yeah, I'll come. I mean, Mitch Kupchak, who played at North Carolina, was with Washington at that time. Michael Corrin, just a lot of different, Reggie Johnson, a lot of different pros just volunteered. What time you want me there, Mike? That was the answer I would get. And so the camp just grew and grew and grew, and deaf kids, girls and boys, heard about it from all across the country. And when I came to Atlanta, I brought my camp back to my home, and I got kids would drive with their coaches from Minnesota all the way down to Georgia, from Delaware, just all across the country, Michigan, all across the country. So the camp really grew. And so now we've had 41 years of this basketball camp for deaf kids. And I've had many of my best players to play college basketball. A couple of them are referees now. One does some of the state tournament. So it's been a wonderful camp and experience for many people in the community. A lot of people love it and still do. And I got a chance to go to the NBA and play basketball and really enjoy that, and played 10 years and a chance to play here in Atlanta as well with the Atlanta Hawks. So that was a very good experience too. And I found that a lot of people would ask me questions about that. How do you make it to the NBA? They had so many questions. And when I would talk sometimes, I would tell them, I would share with them some ideas and some things that you have to do to really be successful in basketball. I decided to put them in a book. So my latest book is called My Next Shot Goes In: 10 Sacred Characteristics of NBA Players That Lead to Success. And it's not just for basketball players. These characteristics are good for anyone. First of all, from the title, My Next Shot Goes In. That's an attitude that you have to develop and believe in as a basketball player, as a person in sales, as a person organizing or making cold calls. You have to believe whatever you're doing, my next shot is going in. And I tell people that I'm working with on their shooting, start from right here. You got to develop till you're really good from this place, until you believe every shot is going in. And I would ask them, what happens if you're in a game and you miss 5 shots in a row? What do you think's gonna happen next? I want them to tell me, my next shot's going in. Coach, run my play. I'm gonna make this next shot. So I want them to develop that mentality, but you have to practice and develop the skills and the belief and to know that you can make that shot from whatever spot you'll be taking it. My next shot's going in. And you learn that whether you're in sales, you get a lot of dejection and rejection, but you have to believe on this next call, this shot's going in. Because you got to be energetic, enthusiastic, and you got to put your passion and belief into that call or into that game or into that turn at bat. You know, we don't have a hit yet, but let me get up there to the bat. You can tell the Braves believe that their next ball was going to go over the wall. You remember Soler? And all of them, they had so many great hitters. But they have certain characteristics and sometimes you need to be reminded of them. So I'm just going to remind you of a couple of them, and then I'll let you ask some questions, and I'll be happy to entertain them. I started with the first characteristics of NBA players, and it was accept the challenge. Now, basketball players always want to accept the challenge. All athletes do. As you become a better athlete, you want to play against the best. Where the best game? Oh, it's over on the west side. Let's go over there. We're going to get those guys or those ladies or whomever it is. You want to play against the best. You want that challenge. And even boxers, who do they want to fight? Who's the champ? They always want to accept that challenge. And we have to learn that in life. Sometimes in life, we shy away from the challenge. Whether you're in school or college, I don't want to take that course, or that teacher's hard, I'll have to study and do a lot of work. We don't want that challenge. Athletes know, yes you do. You want that challenge. You want that challenge that's going to make you better. And Oscar Robertson, who was one of the greatest players ever, he said that if you accept the challenge, maybe you're going out and you're working on your left hand and your right hand layups and your crossover dribble. He said even if you never make a team, you're better for having gone through that. You develop your focus, your concentration, your body, your ability to do something successfully, and that you should do that even if you never make a team. You will be better for having accepted that challenge. If I'm going to make my left hand and my right hand layups, and I'm going to dribble with my left hand all the way to the end and all the way back with my right, and my crossover dribble. So he said you work on these things even if you don't make a team. Now, Michael Jordan went through that and said, even if you fail, you got to try. Michael Jordan said, he had a little book, one of the best books I own thousands. He said, I can't accept not trying. In that, he said, everybody fails at something, and it's okay if you fail. But what he can't accept is not trying. You've got to try. And so he must have known what Oscar believed too, that even if you try and fail, you benefit from having tried. So I knew when he was talking about playing baseball, because I had interviewed him for my first book called Lessons in Success for the NBA's Top Players. And I said, Michael's going to try that because I know his characteristics. I know he's going to try baseball. Even if he fails, he's going to try it. And he did. And when he was talking about coming back, once again, I knew he was going to come back too because that's his character. And that's what athletes learn, some characteristics that they carry with them. Okay, just two more quick ones and I'm finished. Is building good relationships was one. One of my early heroes also was a guy named Lou Hudson that played with the Atlanta Hawks, a great shooter. And then the Hawks got this great shooter in college named Pistol Pete Maravich, who had led college in scoring, averaged over 40 points a game. And the first year they played together, Lou Hudson led the team in scoring. I asked him, Lou, how did you lead the team in scoring with Pistol Pete on your team? He said, well, Mike, let me tell you how I did that. He said, you have to build good relationships with everybody on the team. So sometimes when we're warming up, I would get in the warm-up line and I'd get behind Pete and I'd say, Pete, it's me and you tonight, buddy. They got some good guys outside, so we got to have these outside shots going. So me and you, we're going to look for each other and we're going to have a good game tonight. So Pete would say, all right, Lou. So he built a good relationship with Lou. And then he would go over to Joe Caldwell, a small forward, and say, Joe, they got some tough guys tonight. It's going to be me and you tonight, Joe. You get on the right wing, I'm going to get on the left. We're going to shoot some jumpers, and we're going to win this game because jump shots are going to win the game tonight. But it's me and you tonight, Joe. Me and you, buddy. All right, Lou. Here he go to Walt Bellamy. Walt Bellamy was the center. Say, Bells, I'm going to tell you what, man, they got a tough guy in the middle. Let's run that pick and roll. You come out and set the screen. When I come off the screen, if that center doesn't come out, I can knock down the jumper. If he comes out, I'm going to hit you, and you roll and lay it in the basket. We're going to have a big night tonight, but it's me and you tonight, Bells. All right, Lou, me and you tonight, buddy. And he would go and do it to Jim Washington, a forward, too. So he would build relationships with all his teammates. Lou said you have to build relationships with the fans. You hit a bucket and look to the fans and go, yeah. And then all of a sudden the fans figure, oh, me and Lou. So before he left, Everybody was Lou Hudson's friend. He said, why have enemies? Why not make friends with everybody? Why have people that don't want you to win when you can make friends with them? You can do this in school, in any environment. When you walk in a room, you bring your energy and your persona to that room, and you can change the whole atmosphere of that room with your attitude. And you can build relationships. And you know what happens when you build good relationships? People will see you and they will be happy because they will see how you built a good relationship. Even if it comes from complimenting someone, really nice hair, really nice clothes, I like the way you do this. And somebody else will see it and they'll start smiling. So building good relationships is critical for success in the NBA. I used to thank the forwards who set good screens for me to come off and be open. I say, thank you, Danny, that was a good screen. I'm wide open and I was able to make the shot because you set a good screen. And then a couple of times we had a double screen and somebody got through that screen and he came and apologized to me. Stinger, I'm sorry he got through that screen. It won't happen again. And so that he felt that he had to apologize to me because my man got through the screen. That guy didn't get through that screen again. Roundfield was a powerful forward. Muscles on top of muscles. John Sterling used to say his muscles got muscles. And so, but building that relationship was a big key. So, okay, and the last one I'm going to leave with you is chapter 10. And this one, then you can ask some questions. And the name of this one is, Let the Universe Handle the Details. As a senior in college at Southern Illinois University, I was majoring in math. My dad was a brilliant mathematician, math major, and that was my major too. Had great grades, academic All-American, and had received a scholarship from the Missouri Valley Conference. One athlete gets a postgraduate scholarship. I got that scholarship. I was going to grad school that summer, but I was drafted by the Bulls, and they wanted me to go to Summer League. And I had to think about that, whether I would even play for the Bulls or go to grad school. But I decided to go on and come from a very educational family. My mom and dad were both teachers and educators, and everybody believed in education was the way to have a better future. So anyway, I was in a car accident and I fractured my neck, broke my neck. Then I couldn't go to camp. I had postgraduate scholarships. I'd interned with IBM, which was one of the best companies in America at that time. They were offering me jobs. I could go to grad school, could start with IBM. I had some choices, and I didn't know how my neck would heal. I knew I did not want surgery on my spine. That was out. So I labored with that. And Mom had a sister in Chicago named Murtis. And she was a very, very spiritual lady, had overcome some great challenges through her faith and her belief. And she said, Mike, maybe you want to go and talk with Murtis, her sister. And her sister had come to see me play at Southern Illinois. She's from Chicago, which is Northern Illinois. And my mom, they had met at Southern Illinois to see me play. I was so glad that my mom and her sister were there to see me when we won the championship of the Valley, and I was so glad Mom was able to come up. But anyway, I went to visit Aunt Murtis, and I told her that I had this dilemma, and my neck was still in, I was still in a collar then. I had gotten rid of the brace that I used to have to wear, and I told her the dilemma. And she set me down at the table, and she said, Mike, what do you want to do? Nobody had really asked me that way before. So I said, I thought about it, and I looked up at Aunt Murtis and said, Aunt Murtis, I want to play basketball. She said, all right, hold my hand, we're going to pray. She said, God wants you to play basketball. You're very good at it. You've worked hard all your life. Your dad was a coach. You're going to play basketball. Forget about IBM, grad school, everything else. You're going to play basketball. So you just go home and start preparing yourself. You're going to play basketball. And she said, don't worry about the details. God and the universe will take care of the details. You just do what you need to do to prepare and get ready, and you'll play pro basketball. I got back on the plane. I thanked Aunt Meredith very much. And I started walking and jogging and believing that I was going to heal, because I hadn't healed yet. I still had the broken neck. And the Bulls were winning without me. And they had 12 players. They had drafted another guard ahead of me even from Duke University named Tate Armstrong. So I had no reason to believe that I would play with the Bulls. And, but I did heal. And I got in shape. And I was running, and I would practice at the deaf school, and I would practice with the football team, and I would get up and run and believing that somehow this dream was going to come true for me. And then the Bulls wanted me to just stay on the reserve list as a rookie, make minimum salary. You're not going to play, but you can practice, learn the team, learn the plays and everything. My agent and I said, no, you don't want to do that. Let's force those Bulls to release you. There's some other teams that really wanted you when they drafted you. We talked to a lot of them. We're going to force the Bulls to release you, and we'll find another team for you. That's kind of scary. So we did that. We were going to go to the paper and all and say, he's going to either put him on the team or release him now. He passed your physical, his neck is healed, you release him. So they did release me. And I was able to sign with the Buffalo Braves at my rookie year. And the rest of that year, I had a wonderful year. And I was having fun, and I was loving playing, and I had healed. And the Knicks, who had scouted me a lot in college even after that year, had offered me a nice 3-year contract with a $30,000 signing bonus. And that was a lot of money back then. You know, when they hand you that check for 30 Rand in 1970s, you felt pretty good. Matter of fact, I feel pretty good to have somebody help me with. So anyway, I wound up playing with the Knicks for several years and enjoyed New York City. The city had so much to offer, and later I came to my hometown of Atlanta and played with the Atlanta Hawks and ended my career in Milwaukee with the Milwaukee Bucks. And we got to the Final Four that year. We had a great, great team. So it was just a great experience of NBA basketball. And later I became an analyst. I was writing articles for the Atlanta Journal, and I never studied journalism at all in college. Like I say, I was a math major. I tried to have 3 or 4 math courses every quarter is what I wanted. I wanted all math. But anyway, they interviewed me, and would you consider being an analyst for TV? I say, okay, all right. So I did that, and I wound up working with ESPN, with TNT, with CNN. I had international shows, and I loved that and kept relationship with all my teammates and friends. So for 26 years, I broadcast games and halftime shows, etc., and have written a series of books, and this is my latest one called My Next Shot Goes In. Has some great pictures in it, and so that's kind of what I had to share with you about who I am, how I got here, and about my book. And so now, if you guys would like to ask a few questions, feel free to. I'll be happy to answer them. And you can purchase the book. And also I have, oh, by the way, there's a DVD. Let me just mention this too. When I started the nation's first basketball camp for deaf kids, some of my coaches said, Mike, we got to make this into a movie more than a documentary. So they contacted somebody that could write the script for a movie, and we're going to call it The Spirit of Love. And the NBA Players Association had given me an award called the Spirit of Love Award. I had won the Citizenship Award and all kind of other awards, and I said, okay, all right. So we filmed it in Denver. And that was an experience, a fun experience, getting up early in the morning, 12, 14 hours a day, but we did, and we even won some awards. That year the movie 42 was out, and I went to Nashville and won an award over that one. They said Best Inspirational Movie of the Year. So it was a very good movie. So a lot of people have liked it, and we do have some copies of it for sale as well. And that shirt, that I had a saying, there's a jump shooter in the house. So there's a t-shirt there with that saying on it, jump shooter in the house, you know, because I always loved the jump shooters. Because my dad, and Mildred was my first hero on his girls team. He had this lady, her sign was this, Mildred, she was number 12. Boy, Mildred could always shoot the shots. And Mildred would always have patience with me, passing the ball, shooting and everything. So she was my first hero, was this lady named Mildred. And so that's how I kind of developed into a shooter. I wanted to shoot as well as Mildred did. And so that's kind of the story of how I got here and why these things are all here. And so now it's your turn. Any questions whatsoever, feel free. I appreciate you being here. Yes, sir. Some
players have really good natural ability, and there's some other players that have to work hard to get where they were. Who would you say that you played with or in the NBA that you thought played way above their ability to get to where they were?
Wow, would play way above their abilities to get to where they are. Kind of, he's looking for kind of the self-made players, and I've seen them from broadcasting guys that have worked really hard and made themselves a player and learned to shoot where maybe they couldn't, and the next year you say, that guy. You've heard Jimmy Butler is one of the ones that, as a broadcaster, you know, the Bulls didn't really want him very much, and he had a tough childhood, and he really had to prove himself at every step, going to a junior college, trying to find a college that would accept him. And then they didn't want him to shoot. You just play defense and get a ball to these NBA and collegiate stars. But one summer, he didn't have any TV, didn't have any electronic emails, and just work all summer. Came back stronger, could shoot, and then signed a great contract at the end of that year. He was one of the biggest examples of someone self-made that's playing way above the level that anybody predicted that he would. And there have always been guys like that. I played with some. Michael Ray Richardson was one with the Knicks, who was he was turnover prone. He would just go too fast, and the ball would go out of bounds, throw a bad pass. They would call him the Big Apple turnover in New York. They was bad at Willis Reed, who drafted him. They thought it was just a mistake. He had all this energy, though, and passion, and he drove like that, too. I would ride with him, and he made New York cabs get out of the way. He said, Stinger, that's the way you got to drive in the city. And he played like that, too. But he came back that next summer and worked extremely hard, came back under control and playing great D. He always wanted to guard the toughest guys, you know, let me guard Dr. J, let me get him, you know. So he was that kind of guy, and he made the all-star team. He led the league in assists and steals. Michael Ray Richardson really played above the level that anybody thought he would ever reach. He had some other problems off the court later, but he's one of the best examples I know of someone that shocked me even. I knew he had energy and talent, but boy, he took it to another level that summer. And that's when athletes are really made. Your success is really made in the off season. During the season, you're just doing what the coach and the team wants. But in the off season, it's up to you to go to that gym and make yourself better at the things that you do work on. And so good question, and that will be Michael Ray Richardson, to my teammate. And yes, sir.
You know, you hear about Steph Curry taking 500 shots in practice to perfect his jump shot.
Right.
How many shots did you take to get to the point where they call you Stinger, not just a guy who can shoot the ball?
Very good point. First, I'll answer the last part first, the name Stinger. I would come early and stay late, and I had these rituals that I would do every time, start from a certain area and hit a certain amount of shots from it. And some of the guys would be leaving and say, this guy named Pop Green was one of them who played at Southern University, and Earl of Pearl Monroe. They were leaving, and Pop Green was the first guy that said, man, that guy just hitting every shot. It's like he's stinging the nets. Every time we go sting, he's stinging the net. Maybe we're going to call you the Stinger. You know, so I just laugh, ha, 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 ha. You know, I didn't think it would stick. No nickname ever stuck. And then Earl of Pearl started calling me Stinger. And you know, we have a saying in the pros, you got to earn your nickname. If they calling you something, you better earn it. It's not like being on radio, just something that rhymes or something. If you're Pistol Pete or the Highlight or Hakeem the Dream. You better have some of those tendencies. And so before long, the coach started calling me Stinger. You know, so Stinger stuck. But one thing I did, and I wrote about, my second characteristic was focus. And I have a picture. I'm going to show y'all this picture too, because there's some pictures I think that kind of show and point out what I mean. So I'm going to show this picture of also one of my heroes growing up, a guy named Bill Bradley, who was very successful on the court and went on to become a United States Senator and ran for president, actually. And the name of this chapter is Focus is the Key. Look at the focus that Bill Bradley has. And then once I was practicing my free throws, and one of the old Knicks, Earl, came up and said to me, you know, you kind of remind me of Bill Bradley, how you do that. That was the biggest compliment that I could ever receive, because I had tried to do like Bill Bradley. And what I tell shooters too, that focus takes you to another level. So I would be from a certain spot and say, okay, from this spot, you're close in, you got to make at least 8 out of 10. And then I would be practicing with them and say, this one doesn't hit the rim. I want you to get the arc of the ball over the front, and it better not hit the rim. Go in. So now you got to focus to a higher extent. Okay, it's not going to hit the rim. And you got to get the arc up. And you got to have everything right in your shot. Your elbow in. You know, all the techniques and the fundamentals have to be aligned, and your focus is there so that nothing bothers you. You shoot technical fouls, full arenas, the game on the line. It's that same focus of right over the front of the rim. It's not even going to hit the rim. So I would have led the nation in college, but I didn't have enough attempts. My free throw percentage was high enough. And when I left the Knicks, it's still there. I still have the free throw percentage record for the history of the Knicks, which I've had since 1981, and it's still there. So that's 40 years later. And the focus that I know that you need, and that's how I practice. I practice more with a focus on a short number. 10 from here, make 8 out of 10. If I only make 7, got to do it all over again. And no rim on this one. I got to hit 3. The ball doesn't hit the rim. So my focus, I wanted it to be greater than just, hey, that's 1, that's 2, that's 3. Oh, no, those are no good. You're not focusing on your shot, your technique. Did you get it up? Why did you miss that? Was the arc there? Most shots are missed because they are short and they don't have enough arc. Did you have the right arc on it? Did you get it up over the front of the rim? Are your legs strong enough? Are your legs weak? Are you shooting like this, or are you just up and into your shot? So all of that goes into your practice, your shooting in the game. And every shot has to look the same so that you have those fundamentals right, and you'll be ready to go out on the court and be successful. So I didn't shoot I'm gonna shoot 500 shots. Then you get into the number. How many is that? 400? Shoot 100 more. So yeah, I'd rather shoot 10 good shots than 100 bad ones. So that's kind of my focus. And when I've counseled NBA players, college players, young kids, deaf players on how to be a better shooter. And I've done a lot of shooting drills with Lou Hudson, and we talked philosophy of shooting. So that's one of the things that I pride myself in. And I had the Hawks free throw percentage record, field goal percentage record for many years, until it was Dwight Howard that broke my record for high percentage. But he was getting so many dunks, you know, people passed to him. You know, I got no dunks. All of mine were jump shots. But anyway, that kind of answers that. Anybody else about any of those things?
Did you ever dunk in the NBA?
I think once in college, but I never was really attracted to dunking. Even when my dad and his girls and boys players, I always loved the jump shooters. So I remember I did one. It was in college even. It was a breakaway, and everybody was cheering, hoping I would dunk. You know, so I would have did one of what Nick Dominic called little fingernail dunks. It wasn't one of them. But I would just pass it to somebody, let them dunk, or just lay it up and save the energy. But my knees and everything are well now, and I have teammates that have had 3 hip replacements, and they don't have but 2 hips. How you get 3 hip replacements basement. I ain't got but 2. But everything is fine on me. Man, I see so many just walk all weird and everything. So I feel blessed from a nutrition standpoint and the way you play standpoint as well. All of those are factors in how you have your career and your life after your career as well. Mm-hmm. Good question. Yes?
There's really only one right answer, but I'm going to ask you anyway.
Okay.
Who's the greatest player of all time?
Oh, that's the most asked question. I was visiting a small junior college about a week or 2 ago, and all their players wanted to ask me another version of that. LeBron or Michael? LeBron or Michael? Who's the greatest ever? And it's really impossible to answer, because if you measure greatness by individual statistics or accomplishments as an individual, your team won the most championships, you helped your team to win the most, or you scored the most points, or you're the best defensive player, the best all-around player. How do you answer that? There are about 4 or 5 answers that nobody can dispute. You cannot say that anybody was greater than Wilt Chamberlain. How can you average 50 points a game? Nobody will never average 50. I'm going to tell you that. A lot of records will be broken. Nobody will ever average 50 points a game. And he has one record even more incredible than that. 1 year, he averaged more than 48 minutes a game. You say, wait a minute, there's only 48 minutes in a game. How did he average more than 48 minutes for a whole season? Wilt Chamberlain did. He averaged more than 48 minutes. That means the overtime games he played, and when they add up all the minutes in the games, he averaged 48 point something. You do that one game and a guy say, oh, he played the whole game. He did it for a whole season. So Wilt did some things that are just rebounding. He did some incredible things. Of course, everybody knows Michael, and of course, championships, nobody can match Bill Russell, who had, 11 championships. You know, he had more rings than fingers. So it's about 5 or 6 different people you could say in that are the greatest. And Oscar's one of the most perfect players in the history of the game as well. So all of those are just great, man. I couldn't really just say he's greater than him. You know, are you greater than Wilt? You kidding me? How can you be greater? And Kareem, his whole body of work, he lost like 1 game in high school, 2 or 3 in college. You know, I mean, he just win. He's got over 6 NBA championships, and he's the leading scorer in the history of the game. Who's greater than Kareem? So that's a very tough question. And, you know, we people that played against Michael are so aware of how he thought. I'll put it this way. I interviewed Hakeem the Dream, and I wrote this in my first book. He was talking about Michael. He said Michael Jordan is so great that if he were an animal in the jungle, he would be asleep on the rock, and all the other animals would be afraid to go by even while he's asleep. I had to write that in the book, man. But that's how we saw Michael. It's like, oh my God. You know, people would be scared to talk to Michael because he'd use whatever you say as something to get him motivated. He'd come up like to Steve Smith and say, what's the record in this joint? What's the most point anybody has ever scored in this building? You didn't know whether to tell him or act like you did here or just change the conversation. How's your family? Because Michael would punish you, man. I mean, I'm sure LeBron has many characteristics, as did Kobe. My friend Jim Clemens, who played with Wilt, coached Michael and coached Shaq. He talked about the different mentality, and he talked about how Wilt and Michael had to win, had to dominate everything. And he thought that made them a little different than somebody else. It wasn't enough for him to just win. He had to dominate you. So all of them are great, though, man. Pick your choice, and I'll agree with you. Anybody else?
What's your ring?
This is from the Georgia Sports Hall of Fame. As Amy mentioned, yes, a few years ago, I was elected into the Georgia Sports Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
What's the best piece of advice you have for student athletes looking to make it into professional?
Okay, for student athletes, I'm glad you asked that question, and I put this in my book because I thought that this was important, and you can take a look at that. That is from where I was two-time academic All-American, and I just stressed to them the importance of academics, because at some point you will need this in the pros, if you're lucky enough to make it after the pros, or whatever you do in life. You'll have to know how to analyze things and think critically and develop skills of writing and speaking and talking, and so I tell them to give everything they have to the sport. Go as far as your talent will take you. And we don't know where that will be. It may be here, it may be overseas, it may be college, or it may be high school, or you may not even make a team. But push yourself hard in all of those things, but do not overlook the importance of studying and reading and learning and writing, those things that everyone should definitely do. And then having faith. That one of the characteristics was faith too. And one of the, at this college I was at a couple of weeks ago, one of the kids that's a good shooter, he asked me that question about what's the most important thing in being a good shooter and getting to that next level. I told him it's faith, and he probably said, how is faith important to be a good shooter? But you get to a point where when you come off screens and you just shoot the ball and you practice enough that you have faith, that shot is going in and my next shot goes in. So it's faith that you can shoot it quicker, you can just catch and shoot, and you believe in it, and even if somebody switches out on you, but you believe in your shot, you have to have faith that you can do this. So you develop the faith in your shot, the faith in your ability, and you get that through practice, through repetition, through doing it over and over again. But that's very important to your success. If you're out there tentative, and that's because indecision is the worst enemy of any professional athlete. I don't care if you're running the football, you can't be indecisive. When that hole opens, you gotta go now. You can't wait and say, let me kind of see, is anybody else coming? You'll never make it through that. Can you imagine hitting a fastball or a breaking ball? I don't know if I want to swing at this one or not. You too late. So indecision will kill you. You got to have faith. You got to just go. You got to go. You got to believe, and you got to go for it. So faith is very important, but in academics and athletics, studying, developing subjects that you like, something that you want to focus on, and get help from tutors or anybody, but do it. Spend time on the weekends, whatever it takes. It's very important. So I always stress that. And like I was telling you about my parents, my mom's sisters, who I have cousins has got a PhD in inorganic chemistry, all kind of stuff like that, you know. And they would ask my mom, hey Ruth, what you letting your boy play basketball for? They thought the education is much more important. She had to answer them, well, Glen coaches and he likes to play. She had to answer them, why are you playing basketball? Why is he doing this important stuff? So it's always been important growing up, and I really stress that to the athletes today. There's so many things that can, will, and do happen throughout your life that you're gonna have to go back on that. You're gonna have to come back to it sooner or later. So it'll make your life much better. Good question. Anybody else? Well, I sure appreciate you guys. It's been a wonderful audience, a wonderful talk. Thank you very much. Okay, Miss Amy.
Thank you again for coming to listen to Mike Glen, and thank you, Mike, for your words of wisdom and great advice, whether you're a sports player or just in our everyday life. I think keeping on track and keeping us focused on what is important to be successful in that, so we do appreciate very much. As Mike said, he is available to sign books, and you're welcome to come up and speak with him, and if you have any other questions or anything, feel free to ask those. Okay? Thank you again for attending today's Sunday in Suwannee here at the Suwannee branch of Gwinnett County Public Library.